I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please silence all cell phones and electronic devices. When speaking, please come to the podium, state your name, address, and speak loudly and clearly. Thank you. Item number 1 is approval of the agenda.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from June 17th, 2025.
I'll move it. Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Item number 3, approval of the meeting minutes on June 19th, 2025. I'll move that.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Very good, passes 3-0. Item number 4 on the agenda today is approval of claims, and I would call on Shane Albrecht from Baker Group, please.
Yes, thanks, Ron. There's one claim before us this month. It's from Frederickson and Byron Law Firm in the amount of $10,046.
Move approval.
I will second that. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda today is a financial report, and we would call on Mr. Ryan Erickson from Woodbury County to provide that.
Hi, Ryan Erickson, Finance Director for Woodbury County. The financial report, this 2-week period, there was no interest posted, so there was no revenue. The expenditures, the bulk of the, it was construction expenses with C.W. Suter, getting caught up on some bills for about $152,000. And then the $24,000 was legal fees with Frederickson. And leaving about $3.25 million in the construction account and $734,000 in the miscellaneous account.
Any questions for Mr. Erickson? No. Hearing none, thank you, sir. Item number 6 on the agenda today is discussion and action on hiring expert civil engineer Bob Veenstra. And again, I would call on Shane Albrecht from Baker Group, please.
Yeah, Ron, right now, Jackson O'Brien with Frederickson and Byron Law Firm must be having trouble calling in, so he just called me on my cell phone. So I have Jackson on my phone. Jackson, can you hear me okay?
I can, Shane, and yeah, there was some IT issues on the other end, so I've just dialed in to your phone. Thank you.
Yep. And I'll keep my speaker on the mic, Jackson, so everybody should be able to hear you.
Thank you.
So right now, I'm gonna kick it over to Jackson. So Jackson is a local Sioux City guy that works for, since 2019 with Jody at Frederickson Byron Law Firm. 2019 graduate from Drake, also graduated from locally from Morningside in 2016. So I'll kick that over to Jackson.
Thank you, Shane. And I just have a really quick and relatively small update today. I'm filling in for Jody today. She's out for the week and covering for her for this meeting, and have just a small update, essentially really just related to this civil engineer issue. So we have recommended to the LEC that we engage a civil engineer to look at 2 different issues, really just the parking lots and the seeding and the lack of topsoil in specific areas around the perimeter of the LEC. We've gone through some of our contacts for those civil engineers to look for a cost-effective and good fit, and we've recommended Bob Veenstra to fill that role. We've worked with Bob on a few different cases, some similar to this, some dissimilar, but we believe he'd be a good fit, very qualified. He's got 50 years of experience, and so he really does have the expertise necessary to opine on this. We expect his initial scope of work to be at or around $5,000, and we are still investigating this issue. We hope that Bob's analysis and expertise can help give us some guidance on addressing the problems, understanding the cause, and what, if any, remediation is necessary. I'll open it up to questions about that.
I don't have any.
I don't have any. I think that we're going to need independent analysis on, these 2 issues as we move towards potential litigation. I think this is very affordable, and so I don't see any issues here.
Okay.
So I would move approval.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Passes 3-0. Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you.
Item number 7 on the agenda today is information and update on the LEC project. And again, I call on Shane Albrecht from Baker Group to provide that to us, please.
And that's all I have on my end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I tried to mute him, but that didn't work. All right, so thank you again. I would like to call on Kevin Ross from GGA, who happens to be here today. Kind of let everybody know what's been going on the last 2 days. And I want to send a special thanks to Building Services and everybody out to the LEC, but especially to Kenny Schmitz, who was supposed to be on vacation these last 2 days, but instead of going on vacation, came in to help us with this warranty walk. So thank you, Kenny. I appreciate that. Kevin has been out with us. We probably walked for 7 hours or so out around the site, looking at everything outside, inside, looking at some issues and problems. So our main focus outside was looking at the site seeding or lack of grass growing issues, topsoil in some of the places, double checking, of course, our secure parking fence, it's one of our items, as well as looking at other things around the loading docks and just checking for wear and tear and for things that need to be corrected for our 1-year warranty stuff.
Right.
Also looking at over jail administration, the Centria panels that have been in question for a while, getting Kevin to get eyes on that, to be able to make recommendations for us to move forward with our next steps. So Kevin, I'm going to kick it over to you, sir.
Yeah, so we spent about almost 4 hours yesterday walking the site inside and out, and then followed up this morning with another 3.5 hours. So we spent a fair amount of time out there talking to staff out there as well too, to see if there's any additional issues that weren't present to us as we walked through, just give a little more background and so forth. And as Shane mentioned, some of the exterior ones, probably some of the bigger ones, the seating of the whole site out there, which is obviously less than par. Striping in the parking lot is just atrocious. Pretty much all destroyed out there and needs to be completely redone. And so with all the items we identified inside and outside the building, we're going to compile a list, almost like another punch list, but it's like a warranty list to send back to Hausman and their subs to have them come back and do corrective work prior to that 1-year warranty expiring. Inside the building, main thing we saw inside there, we had probably 8 or 10 plumbing leaks, just miscellaneous plumbing leaks that building services and those guys were aware of. And I think we contacted Suter to get that taken care of. Had a few issues with the some of the work that was done on the activity area, garage doors, the overhead doors on the outside where they cut into them. Now birds are nesting up there. Just little stuff like that is things we were catching out there as we did a walkthrough. Walked the roof. Found a few issues with the roof up there as well too. We want to get addressed before winter comes around again, because I could see some potential issues there with the roof. I think there is a current roof leak now that's been called into Hausman that Kenny's tracking on his list as well too. And then probably the biggest one I wanted to get my eyes on and ears on was the courtrooms and those jury rooms up there. We have some serious sound issues between those. I know Todd and Shane, these guys, Kenny, these guys have evaluated it and looked at it. I know Hausman's been back out there several times to look at it. But what we found was some issues that it wasn't constructed properly. They did some tear out last week. I don't know, was Sands the sub they had out there?
Yes.
The drywall sub they had out there, and I think Caleb was out there from Hausman as well too. And Todd was out there watching this and noticed that they had a lot of areas that didn't have proper insulation in those walls. We still have doors that aren't sealing properly at the floor or around the frames. Just multiple issues that have identified that we need to have addressed and addressed immediately. So that's probably at the top of the priority list from the things we saw walking the building.
So one of the things I want to point out to everybody, when the drywall was torn off, and I appreciate you guys coming, because I want to give you an update of what we kind of found and what it's going to actually mean. Right now, all the jury rooms that we found, they didn't do a good job putting the insulation behind the drywall. So there's areas where insulation is completely missing, which will cause sound transfer to be something fierce. There's outlet boxes that they didn't insulate behind again. And I don't know if your house is anybody or whatever, anytime you have an exterior wall and you have an outlet box, you don't get insulation behind it, you can feel a cold draft blowing in. Sounds the same way. So when you have areas that they didn't put the sound batting behind at all, sound easily transfers through and can cause you the grief that you had. Kevin is also going to be looking at the doors, because the doors don't match their shop drawings. They were supposed to put in 47.
Yeah, they were supposed to be STC rated. So STC rating is sound transmission class. It's the amount of sound that can transfer across a substrate like that or structure like that. And so national court standards, as well as the American Institute of Architects, recommends an STC rating anywhere between 40 and 60 for a courtroom and jury room. And so what we had designed for the walls and so forth was an STC of 50 rating, and the closest associated door was an STC of 47. So we're kind of right in the middle of that range right there. What we saw in the field does not match those requirements for the constructability, and the doors were even a little bit less than that. So again, something we're going to go back to the general contractor and have them address that and provide what was supposed to be provided initially for the construction project.
So currently, we appreciate you guys very much and for allowing us to get into the space to do this work. But when we come back, they're gonna have to remove all the drywall from the inside of the jury room to get to it so they can put the insulation in there, insulate around the doors correctly. So we will probably, fortunately, work with you guys, of course, but we'll end up taking a jury room out of commission for probably a whole week. I mean, to get it all demoed, get it insulated back properly, but so that we don't cause you too much I know it's hard, but try to leave one fully usable and one not now. When they are doing this, we all know it's noisy, and again, I apologize. We'll have to work around your schedule, but that's what it's gonna look like, is they're gonna have to take down all the drywall inside the jury room because it wasn't installed with the proper insulation behind it, which is why we're getting sound transferring to the hallway and to the courtrooms, okay? So I normally don't do this, but I would like to ask the judge or Peggy or Stacy, if you have questions, please ask now. That's one of the reasons we asked you nicely to come, because we know this is a huge disruption to how you want to conduct business and how you do business with this problem. Again, we apologize, but we got to make it right, or you're not going to ever have the sound stopped for transmitting between the courtroom and the jury rooms, okay? So if you have questions, please ask.
Sounds like it'd be a week per jury room.
Yes. Yes.
I assume they'll try and do it 1 week followed by the second week.
That, no, now, this is inconveniencing you guys, so everybody here would tell me, you could say, hey, we can give you this week, but next week we've got all this going on, so you can't come back for 2 more weeks, or whenever that is. We're gonna do this to work with you guys and appreciate working with you guys. So we'll get the week, but then it doesn't have to be, Judge, if that doesn't work in your guys' schedule, because we know it's a huge inconvenience, okay?
If I can add to that, Shane, I think we ought to push for housing their subs to also look at evenings, weekends, stuff like that, to work around that schedule too.
And
That
I
would
think
be my
that's
suggestion.
fair as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, how many other places in the LEC had soundproofing in the walls?
There's acoustical measures in a majority of the office walls, restroom walls, stuff like that, but not to the level of having a true like sound transmission class rating like you would in a courtroom or a jury room. So really the main ones in the LEC facility would be all the courtrooms, the 2 jury rooms, and then the 2 interview rooms over in the sheriff's office. That's really the highest STC rated rooms in that facility. Again, there's other ones that have the same acoustic insulation and ceiling, but not to that level. And so those areas specifically, they make what they call an acoustical chipboard. It's a special chipboard that has a sheet of poly in the middle that helps that sound transmission. Again, the whole assembly with the insulation and ceiling and so forth creates that needed stopping of
Kevin?
the transfer.
I just got, that tracks with that. This correction on the doors, will the door frames have to be changed out or just the door itself?
That's a very good question. So depending on what the issue is, I think what you guys have witnessed out there are some issues with door frames which they've tried to correct. Can we get a door leaf to match back up to that? Possibly. Can the doors be adjusted in place? Possibly. That's something we need to have a little more investigative work done.
Okay.
Just to determine,
That tracks
is
with the
it a
drywall.
plumbness issue? Is it a warping issue? Is it a floor level issue? Because we saw some of that too with the doors going into the back side of the courtrooms where the judges enter. There's uneven floors there that didn't get floated back out right. So it might be tight here at that automatic door bottom, but there's a gap over here. So that's where we're getting sound transferring through some of those places. And same thing with those jury rooms, so.
And the reason I ask that is that because it is such a specific thing that
Right.
was required for that area of the building,
Right.
nowhere else, and it needed to have all hands on deck and needed to be done, because once we occupied this thing, the courts, that is a machine that doesn't turn off.
Right.
And so to have this happen, and I've seen some of the pictures of these holes, it's just atrocious.
Right.
Where was the quality control of this contract? I mean,
And that's a
what
fair
were
question, Mark.
what were they doing?
Right.
And so it's hard for me to have sympathy
Right.
for them to move heaven and earth to get them back in to fix it when
Right.
this was not a hard thing. This is not a big area.
Right.
This is not complicated. It's not rocket science.
Right.
And I think nights and weekends are going to have to be an option.
Yeah.
It might be Friday at 4 o'clock. They come in and they're going to work straight through till Monday at 8 a.m. Back up.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you 100%.
This is not hard stuff. I got
Yeah.
a 7-year-old that could probably come in and do a lot of this stuff.
Right. No, and obviously, yeah, there was some lack of supervision there. And even with the extra set of eyes, you know, Todd was out there quite a bit. We're out here every 2 weeks. Shane's out here every other week. It's one of those things where you see it going up and okay, they're not quite done. You make your sweep of the building. Next thing you know, you got drywall up on the wall and there's no way to catch everything.
You can't babysit every
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. So unfortunately, that is what it is. And I agree. I think we need to push them to really work hard around the court schedules to get this corrected.
Judge, you're scheduled out quite a bit, aren't you, with the jury trials?
For criminal jury trials, it'd be scheduled out every month.
Judge, we'll have to have you come to the mic. Sorry.
Yeah, there'll be jury trials scheduled every month from here till we all quit going. Sometimes they won't go, sometimes they will. There may be weeks there won't be any jury trials, but there's going to be juries scheduled every month. And there's going to be in-court hearings every day, obviously, in all three of the main courtrooms that are be affected. So we obviously would prefer nights and weekends, if at all possible, to keep things moving. Otherwise, to be honest, we're gonna have to continue everything because you won't be able to conduct hearings in courtroom 2 if they're working on the jury room in courtroom 1 because it'll be just too loud.
Absolutely.
So it'll basically make us shut down if they have to work during the day. And
So to Mark's point, I mean, it's really critical that we push the Friday night through Monday morning time period
I think so, yeah.
with that scheduling you have.
And mess and clutter, that isn't gonna bother us, but noise clearly does.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's kind of what we saw for warranty walk stuff and everything, did good things. Kevin will get a list out next week and we'll talk about that more in a couple weeks, okay?
Yep.
So some other things that have happened, PR 55 was issued on Monday, not 55R, it's 55R. So it's a revised version of PR 55. PR 55, right now is the last thing currently we're waiting on Introba 4. And we were able to find some really good things out during our walk. There was 2 holes that were gonna have to be cut in the walls to get return pass back to there. We went above the ceiling and this is one advantage we had. This houseman didn't follow the documents. So the studs were supposed to go all the way up, or block were supposed to go all the way up to the roof deck. It stopped about 1.5 inches short in most places.
In one
Some-
area.
Some places a little farther than that, and some places at the bottom of a bar joist that's 20 inches thick, okay? So when these return paths were missing, and we were gonna have to cut holes in the wall, we're now do not have to cut holes in the wall, because we're able to utilize the return paths through those areas. So that will help some other disruptions that were gonna happen out there. So we've sent that back to Carol to be corrected. So currently PR 55 has, in the courtrooms, we're adding CO2 sensors to the courtrooms and humidity sensors. What that will allow is, because of the large spaces of that room, it will allow us to give the proper ventilation and the proper heat for that room without overdoing the CFM in the room to cause more noise and stuff from those air handlers. So to try to quiet the space down, but still provide you the proper and adequate heat for the spaces. We're going to adjust quite a few of the different minimums for the airflows, as we've talked about before. It's a full control sequence for AHU 3. So that's what PR 55 is. PR 54, which was issued 2 weeks ago, We've got initial pricing back from Suter. We've got pricing back from Thompson. We've got an alternate price from Thompson to add another panel, because we've taken away most of the spare breakers. We're waiting right now to get a price on a roof, and we met with Kenny to talk about what his staff could help do to try to lessen some of the subs we'd have to bring in for that, because Hausman has refused to perform that work for us, which is fine. It just means we don't have a general basically on it, so we're gonna have to schedule that and coordinate all that for that. Is there any questions?
So on the soundproofing, they'll have to take the drywall down and then either remove the insulation or add more and then put the drywall back up, and then you're gonna have your tape texture and then painting.
Yep, correct.
So it's, I mean, it's not
It's not the end of the world, but
it's not hard work, but it's, I mean, when you tape texture, it takes time with
Yeah.
each, each mudding and, but that's like, that's what's so frustrating here is that's such an easy thing to do the first time. I mean, the amount of
Right.
work that they're gonna have to do now is just,
Right. Well, even like the door frames they originally installed, you put spray foam in there. Well, they put a little bit here, but then the rest of the door frame is still wide open. So it's just, yeah, it was poor workmanship in my opinion. And so it needs corrected. I mean, that's the bottom line.
well, thanks for that, Kevin Jay.
And there, I guess there is something to note, just for you to shake your head, but might as well tell you. So they, one door on courtroom one was hit, so it was bent, so they needed to replace it. So that was what was going on. They're replacing the door frame, but putting the door back in it. They got a frame that was 1/8 of an inch too short, so I'll apologize until the new door gets here. If you wonder why that door doesn't shut very well or open very well, it's because the door doesn't fit in the frame. Okay? So again, just because you're gonna have to deal with this every day, it will shut and it will open. It's not how it's gonna stay. They've ordered a new door, but that takes time again to get the new door here. So, again, I can't explain it, sir. I can just tell you they ordered a door frame. We took it out, had it painted. They put it in, and it was too small. Can't make this stuff up, I'm sorry. You could try.
All right, any other questions?
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Item number 8 on the agenda today is public concerns. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9, authority board member concerns.
Nothing further.
Nothing other than Shane, I urge you to, and Kevin, that we'll try to work with you guys as best we can. If we can work nights, weekends, and, we'll do everything we can to monitor that and help that. So,
All right, item number 10 on the agenda is joint closed session with Woodbury County Board of Supervisors and Frederickson and Byron Law Firm at 3 PM under Iowa Code Chapter 21.51C.
I'll move it.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Wick,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
We are in closed session.
Thank you, Kevin, very much.
Thank you.
Jackson, thank you, sir.